Joining me now is somebody who can help us digest those unemployment numbers that have crept back up now, the rate to 9.1% of unemployment in this nation right now. Are there silver linings? Are there pitfalls ahead? What it all means? Mike Ryan is here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Senior Vice President of New York-based Madison Performance Group. Weigh in on these U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers from today, the latest ones.
Well, in a word, disappointing. Clearly after the great April we had, we were expecting better numbers. ADP came out with a report earlier this week that gave us a sense that they might be disappointing, but still the whisper rate on the street was about 100,000 jobs in the private sector, and we came in well below that at 83,000, 54,000 total. With organizations, however, having experienced great profits in the last couple of months and sitting on close to $1 trillion in cash, I am optimistic about the next couple of months. I think we've been digesting some difficult patches in our economy, and organizations, I think, will be getting back to hiring again soon.
You know, some things got floated out of this administration just yesterday about the fact that Mr. Obama will be very resistant to returning to renew again the Bush-era tax, I don't want to call them tax cuts, but tax rates.
Right.
And that affects some of those home business owners and their lucrative incomes for some of them. And so maybe people are keeping money in their pockets because they're anticipating that taxes are going to get a whole lot more expensive in this country with this particular president.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, I think businesses are digesting that. I think employees have been digesting a lot of uncertainty as well. You know, at Madison Performance Group, we're focused very much on the relationship between the employers and the employees. And one of the things that I think is happening right now in the workplace that I think is going to add to the potential of hiring in the future is that current employees have been overtaxed and overburdened with the amount of responsibility that they have. And I think we'll see shortly that organizations that do want to grow are going to be looking to add staff to those jobs. And I think more than any other factor in the economy, I think that will play a role.
There are economists who say that the natural rate of unemployment has shifted up. Am I to understand that there are simply people out there who got weeded out almost in the recession who will never work again?
The participation rate is a factor that everybody's looking at, correct? I mean, I think it's a product of whether or not people are actively looking, whether or not they've gone back to school, whether or not they've retired early. And I do think that that is a factor in determining what the natural unemployment number is right now. You know, the other side of the unemployment number is the overemployed. You know, the people that are...
What is that? What does that mean, overemployed? I read that in my notes about you, and I've heard of underemployed, but how can you be... You mean you make too much money?
No. If anything, your wages may have gone down, but the burden that you have in terms of performing at work has increased. Which basically means that if organizations are going to continue to expand from a productivity point of view, they need to continue to tap into that discretionary effort that their employees give them. And what we see at Madison Performance Group is that when individuals don't have that discretionary time at work, that ability to pursue things that are meaningful to them on the job, then their ability to add discretionary effort suffers as well as does productivity. When you look at the productivity numbers, they are continuing to rise, but there is a trend showing right now that organizations may have maxed out their ability to grow based upon the number of employees that they have right now. So from my perspective, that does signal that in the future, they're going to have to hire more people.
Yeah, you know, you may be feeling overemployed because part of the reason why these employers, as I've read, have so much money on their books is because they're able to do so much more with far fewer people, which means they're driving you, the horse, through 6 races instead of 1. And paying you the same thing. We're looking at some graphics here. By the way, Mike Ryan has his own graphics package created by our team here. I don't get a pie chart or anything, or any of that. But look at this and make this make sense for me.
Well, what you see right now is a reflection of uncertainty. You see the impact of oil shocks. You see the impact of the revolution in the Arab Spring. What you do see, though, is a trend. I do think that the trend is going down. We are not growing at the rate we would like to, or at least unemployment is not coming down at the rate that we would like to. But again, I do think it's a factor of businesses digesting a lot of information right now, a lot of uncertainty, both through market forces and political forces.
Can I throw a live chat question to you?
Absolutely.
Bill G. Armand wants to know, well, why would a business expand now anyway? We have an excess of products.
It's not a question of expansion in terms of product. It's a question of giving their employee base enough room to maneuver to be innovative. You know, we are very much in a knowledge-based economy right now, and one of the things that I think has happened as organizations have managed their employees more closely is they've robbed them of their ability to actually do things their way. And as a result of that, by managing to a metric instead of an outcome, what organizations are finding is that they're getting less innovative approaches, less personal patents, if you will, about how to approach the marketplace, how to approach a job differently, and to make an organization grow. So I think that's one of the things that organizations need to be very sensitive to when they look at the issue of growth. The other side of that is what's happening with their brand in the marketplace. When you look at the integrity of the brand, in many cases it's a reflection of did the customer experience the value proposition that the company had promised. And if your employees are not completely focused on doing their jobs to meet customer needs, in other words, are they maybe retreating, maybe they're becoming a little bit more anxious, a little bit more concerned about their own jobs, then that brand may suffer. So that's one way where organizations, I think, can protect their growth.
Look at that number. I think the most telling number out of this entire thing is December 2007. Or maybe just in the following April where it dipped to 4.9%.
Yeah.
It stayed there for quite some time, but we can't get back there, and whenever we do dip, we don't come anywhere close.
There's so much uneasiness about any particular world event. You know, when you look at the normal dynamic of recession recovery, a steep recession is usually followed by a steep recovery. But we had so many interventions. I mean, this recession obviously was one of the most difficult in history. We had so many interventions that we are on a level of fragility that is going to be reflected in these numbers, in these graphs. We've absorbed a lot of bad news over the last couple of months, and I do think right now that's catching up with the employment numbers.
Bad news.
Everything from oil shocks to the
continued bleeding in the housing market. That sort of thing.
Everything from consumer confidence to what's happened in Japan. You're finally beginning to see the disruption of supplies hitting some of the manufacturers in the United States. That's taking a toll.
That's interesting.
And all these things, this perfect storm of bad news, really could indicate that those numbers could be much worse. But what you're seeing, I think, is a foundation of a relatively healthy economy. When I say relatively, I mean an economy that's been through some really troubling aspects and is now poised to recover, but just not at the rate we would like to see.
I know I got to let you go, and I'm not going to drag you too much into politics, but is there anything at this point quickly that the government should do or should not do in terms of us coming back fully and recovering?
I think the collective concern among businesses right now is a high level of uncertainty. Not to get into the political discourse, but with the conversations being on one side and the conversations being on other, there needs to be some type of a sense of compromise coming.
Whatever the issue is, debt ceiling, government shutting down.
So we can just move on. As a matter of fact, that's what many businesses are doing from a planning perspective right now, is they're looking at both scenarios, but the reality is I think that once there's clarity, there'll be more certainty.
All right. Mike Ryan, terrific to have you. The Madison Performance Group. Come back anytime.
My pleasure. It's great to meet you.
Thank you.